turn every single illegal alien that he let in across the borders into a voting citizen. I believe that's the only reason this is happening, because nobody could want, there's no other reason that this is a good thing. And for that, you know, it's interesting, they cheat so much, they don't really need that. That's the way I look at it. So I almost don't even think that's the reason, but it probably is. By contrast, I want to send Joe Biden's illegal aliens back home where they belong. They have to go back home. Because quite simply, Joe Biden wants an invasion. I want a deportation. There's Mr. Walbert. Just stand up for that shit. I love that shit. By day, he's a CPA who does very well. Look at him. He's been to about 200 rallies, I think, right? Pretty close. That's good. That's good. On day one, I will seal the border, I will stop the invasion, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in the history. Under crooked Joe Biden, the world is emptying out their prisons, insane asylums, and mental institutions. It's emptying out all of these places at levels that nobody's ever seen, and sending us, the most vicious criminals, savage gang members, sadistic cartels, are pouring into our countries, loaded up with horrible, horrible criminals, and they're pouring into our country at levels never seen before. We've never seen anything like this before. And it's only going to get worse. You see what's going on in New York where they're fighting. They're having fist fights with policemen in the middle of the streets. Fist fights. I've seen people get shot. I've seen fist fights. I mean, those are long term. And it's horrible. Nobody's ever seen it. And in their country, they'd be executed immediately if they did it. They know that. But it's taken them a little while to get acclimated. You're going to have migrant crime added to regular crime at levels that nobody has ever seen before anywhere in the world. That's what's happening. The smart, the cartel people, they run these things like the best corporate. Say they run more efficiently, they know how to do it. They're horrible people, they're killing hundreds of thousands of Americans each year. especially, I mentioned the death penalty, and with the problem. If you look at Singapore, if you look at the only countries essentially that don't have a problem are people with either really strong crime prevention or countries with the death penalty. And Singapore is another one. They don't even know what you're talking about when you say, do you have a drug problem? You have a drug problem? No, we don't have a drug problem. Why would we have a drug problem? We have an unbelievable drug problem. We lost last year, in my opinion, 300,000 people. That's bigger than a war. That's bigger than a war. And so many times they're young people. And so many times it was a mistake. They thought they were taking something else. If you take the head of a pin and put something, a little fentanyl on the head, if it's a little bit larger than the head of a pin, you're dead. You have no chance. And this is pouring in from China. And I had a deal with President Xi. He was going to give the death penalty to anybody manufacturing fentanyl in China and selling it to the United States. But then when the election was rigged and didn't turn out right, he didn't have to do anything. And this group definitely didn't want to pursue that. But we had a deal. They weren't going to be sending the fentanyl into us anymore. But we have to do something with Mexico. 300,000 people are dying a year. Those are the real numbers. They like to say 100. They like to say 90. It's been that number for a long time. It's 300,000 people, and it's probably more than that. And we're going to have to take very strong action because we can't let that happen. That's like being in a war. You take a look at the Civil War. You take a look at wars that we've had where the numbers are not so much more than that. Double for the Civil War. That was a war within our country. And you take a look at this, we cannot let this stand any longer. We cannot take it from China, from Mexico, from anywhere else. We have to clean out the problem. And the people that do it, the tougher they are, the less of a problem they have. It's very simple. It's actually a very simple solution. In addition to all of the Biden migrant crimes stealing innocent American lives, Crooked Joe is also responsible for more women and children being sold into again, when they can't make a deal. You know, when they can't make a deal, that's a big problem, and they're finding out that a lot of them are gone. A lot of these people are gone right now. But there's the thing, again, it never would have happened. October 7th, Israel, the attack on Israel, would have never, ever happened under the Trump administration. When I'm president, I will use Title 42 to end the trial, and we have to do this, to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries. And we will do it immediately. We will save countless women and children from slavery and servitude. You know, when you talk about all of the people that are essentially kidnapped, it's another word for it, trunks of cars. They have cells. They close. It's 100 degrees out. It's 150. They put women in there to try and sneak them across the border. And they can do it very easily because the borders, we have an open border into our country. But most of those people, just think of yourself, think of your family. Most of them are women. The Biden border invasion is also an all-out war on the working class minorities of our country, and it's a flat-out economic warfare on African American and Hispanic American families and workers. These people are taking the jobs of African Americans. They're taking the jobs of Hispanic Americans, and they're tremendously affected. And you know who else is affected? Is unions. Unions are being absolutely slaughtered because people are coming in and they're taking those union jobs, and I think you're going to see unions start to speak up pretty soon. The illegal immigration is hurting Black and Hispanic families more than anyone else. In less than 4 years, Joe Biden has imported millions of low-wage migrants and given them welfare, free health care, and work permits to undercut American wages. People with jobs that have had it for a long time are being fired all over our country. Now, real income for African Americans is down more than 6% under Crooked Joe Biden. Think of it. So that's the African Americans are being, and it's one of the reasons, by the way, have you seen the polls? okay? The polls for African Americans are loving Trump because they're seeing what's happening and criminal justice reform. And I funded the colleges and black colleges and universities. Nobody else did that. Nobody else even thought of it. And what we're doing is we're getting tremendous numbers that I don't think anybody's seen before, of African Americans coming over to vote for us. And we need those votes because we have to turn this country around. Simultaneously, illegal immigration is causing rent and housing costs to skyrocket, absolutely skyrocket, because we have 15 million new migrants. We have no place to put them. And that number is building so fast. We have absolutely no place. In everything that he does, Joe Biden puts illegal aliens first. He puts the cartels first. He puts the open borders, these lunatics first. And he betrays the American citizens. He's betraying the American citizens. Again, I say it all the time. He's the single worst president in the history of our country. You know, until I got indicted. I got indicted 4 times. I never spoke. You know, I spoke. I'm a politician, I guess. I can't stand the name, but I'm a politician, I guess. I ran. I won. The only thing I did wrong was I beat somebody that I wasn't supposed to beat. We won the election in 2016. And then in 2020, as we all know, I did much better than I did in 2016. We got millions of more votes, but a lot of bad things happened. You know, they used COVID to cheat, etc., etc. We're not going to let that happen again. But as your president, I will put African Americans first, Hispanic Americans first, women first, men first, people with diplomas from the top schools first, people without a diploma, that we have all. But basically, I'll put all Americans first. I'm going to put them first. Because my loyalty is to the American people, and starting on day 1, I will shift massive portions of federal law enforcement to immigration enforcement, including parts of the DEA, ATF, FBI, and DHS, if you know what that is. I will deploy the U.S. Navy to impose a full blockade like I had on the cartels, because when the land gets tough to get across, they swing it out with the boats, and we will stop that. We already did. And deny them access to the waterways of our region. We will put the cartels out of business, and I will make clear to every federal department and agency that we must use any and all resources to stop this invasion of our country, including moving thousands of troops, if necessarily, currently stationed overseas, to our own borders. We protect other countries, but we don't protect our own. Because we defend the borders of foreign countries, we will secure the border of our country. I think that makes sense. And most importantly, because without this, it's only going to... We have to win this November. We have to win. And remember, in September, North Carolina. November 5th date. But we use the November 5th because that's the day that we will have a chance, like we did years ago. We turned our country around. We made America great again. In fact, I couldn't use that slogan. I wasn't going to use that slogan in 2020 because America became great again. We were respected all over the world. And now I can use that slogan because our country is a failed, we're a failed nation. We need a victory that's too big to ring. You know what that means. We need everybody. It's interesting, we talk about Second Amendment. I'm the one that just got recently the endorsement of the NRA, which I appreciate. Very strong. Very strong. But I was talking to them, and gun owners, for whatever reason, don't vote. They really don't vote in very, very low numbers. The gun owners after that. Also, evangelicals and Christians don't vote like they should. If they would vote, we couldn't lose. There's nobody that could beat us. So we have to get the evangelicals, we have to get the gun owners, we have to get these people to vote, and if they vote, nobody can beat them. And if they don't vote, they're going to take away your guns because the Second Amendment is totally under siege. They'll take away your guns. You're not going to have protection. And other reasons that you want guns. So the gun owners have to vote. The Christians, the evangelicals have to go out. They have to vote. So I'm asking everybody to go out and we have to swamp. You know the word swamp? I fired Comey. I fired a lot of people. I fired a lot of people doing a job. But this is a different swamp. We have to go to swampthevoteusa.com. Swampthevoteusa.com. It's a different version of the word swamp. I never liked the word swamp. And then I said it one time at a big arena, the place went wild. I said, I sort of like it. I said, Frank Sinatra told me he never liked singing My Way, except everybody liked it so much, and then all of a sudden he liked it the best. So we like the word swamp because it's meant so much. But we have to swampthevoteusa.com. That's where you go to get the information to request your ballot or pledge to vote early in person or even on election day. The main thing, you've got to vote. And you got to sort of watch your vote. Because these are crooked people. You got to watch your vote. Watch where it's going. And if you want to volunteer to help us turn out or target voters in your neighborhood, we have a lot of people that want to vote for us, but they don't vote. We got to get them to vote. We need TrumpForce47.com. TrumpForce47.com. And with your vote, we will end Joe Biden's border nightmare. We will fire his failed and weak, horrible, the worst ever administration. We will rescue the state of Arizona. We will make America great again. And now, we're going to do something a little bit. You think Biden does this? If they ask him one question, he just leaves. They ask him one question. No, we're gonna take some questions. We don't do this often because it gets a little bit sloppy, I must say. But they look like nice people. But whatever question you'd like to ask, it can be a horrible, embarrassing, vicious question, or it can be quite nice. I don't care personally because it's called We Answer. You ask a question, we answer the question. Yes, darling, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for taking the time to answer this question. I am a mother, a wife, and a woman. And I also foster and adopt kids. Growing up near the border, I've seen firsthand how unsecure borders has impacted my family and our community. I worry about the illegal drugs being brought into our community and what could happen to my children. What steps can be taken to reduce the drugs being brought into the country as well, and safety and well-being of families and the community?
Thank you, Bill. Good, very good question. It's a very basic question. It's a little bit what we've been talking about, but it's going to be at a level that we have never seen in this country. Even as good as I did, I created the safest border in history. We're going to make it so good. All Biden had to do was let the people stay there, keep the same policies. We wouldn't even be talking about this as an issue. And I think in a certain way, it's just one of the truly big issues. We're going to make our border very powerful, very strong. We're going to stop drugs from coming in. We're going to stop this whole thing with human trafficking, which is a big part of your question. And we're going to make your homeland safe for you to stay with your family, where thousands of people are pouring in and looking through your windows, and what they're doing here in Texas. And by the way, the governor of Texas has done a very good job of closing that. But here they haven't done that. And in California, they haven't. 82% of the people are coming in now through California, Arizona. So we're going to have to close it up. We're going to close it up. We're going to use federal powers to close it up. Thank you, darling. Good question. Yes, sir. You're a good-looking guy. That guy looks like a banker from Wall Street. You can see I'm an old man, and I have grandchildren that I want to see taken care of. Right. And I want them to know that they can have the same life that I have had. Very nice. We're going to make sure that they have the same. You know, I mean, I can just see how incredible you are by the emotion of that and the way you asked the question. We're going to make sure they have the same life that you had or better. We're going to make it safe. We have to give authority back to law enforcement so they can properly protect people. Because right now, the law enforcement is not allowed to do their job because crime is so bad in the cities. And one of the things I said is we're giving immunity. We're going to guarantee people, you know, they lose a law enforcement person. They go and stop people from robbing stores. You go to some of these department stores where 500 people walk into the stores. They walk out with air conditioned. They strip the whole store. The company goes out of business. The store is vacant for 25 years. The whole city becomes a slum. And if you do anything as a law enforcement person, they take away your house, they take away your family, they take away your pension. We're going to make it so that we're going to give them essentially immunity. We're going to make it that they are not going to be losing their pensions. And we're going to get life back to them. I know exactly the life that you're talking about. It was a life of common sense. It was a life where there was no crime. There was nobody getting bopped over the head when they weren't looking, getting pushed into a railroad train or a subway. It's just horrible what's taking place. It's horrible. It's evil. We're going to get it back to common sense. We're going to have law and order. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, President Trump, for coming down. We really do appreciate you too. I'm in the unique position of having two children that are in their 30s and a set of girls that are teenagers. I know what I did have to do with the 30-year-olds. I know what I now have to do with the teenagers. I have trackers on those girls, and I've taught them evasive action when driving through our county because of the high school pursuits of trafficking.
Who would believe you have to even think about doing that?
Never with the original two.
No, I know that.
How would you handle the criminal activity that is running rampant because of this open border? Because all of this is from this open border.
Okay. Strength, and we're getting them back. We're bringing them back. In some cases, we'll keep them here. There's some real bad ones, but don't forget, when we keep them here, it costs us millions and millions of dollars per person. It's so crazy. We're getting them the hell out of our country, and we start with the criminals. And you know what? Our local police know who they are. They know their first name, their middle name, their last name. We have to give authority back to the local police, who are fantastic. Thank you very much.
So great to have you here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I'm a veteran Air Force individual. Foremost, I am a father and a husband, and I find it frightening that we have illegals crossing our border from countries like China, the Middle East, and other dangerous countries. How will you prevent all this national disaster happening at our southern border?
So we can do things that nobody does with this, and we have tremendous economic power. And by the way, if we're not careful, we're not going to have that for long either. That's going to go down the tubes with everything else. But if China or some other country is behaving badly, we have things called tariffs that are so severe. Mexico, look at Mexico, what they're doing. I can solve that problem, I believe, in one day. You send people through, you allow people to come through your country with hundreds of miles they have to walk, hundreds through. By the way, those caravans, I thought I came up with a name, maybe somebody else did, but they're caravans of thousands of people. The young women in particular, but the young women in those caravans suffer so badly, and there's so much death. And this is all caused by Biden, where people think they're going to walk into the United States. It's just another form of that. We are going to be so tough, and if a country is not going to behave, we're going to tariff the hell out of that country because one of the powers that we have to will do more than that. I don't think you're going to need it. I don't think you're going to need it. You know, I had a very good relationship with China. Yet I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. No president, we wouldn't have any steel factories, any steel mills in the United States if I didn't do what I did. I was taxing them at 25 and 50%, perhaps going up very substantially. But we wouldn't have industry, certain industry, they would have been gone. And it's not only China, it's every country tries to take advantage of us. The European Union is brutal to us. They don't take our cars. They don't take our food products. They don't take anything. We have a tremendous deficit. You know, the European Union sounds so nice. They're very tough. We have hundreds of billions of dollars of deficits. We had that really going great. Then COVID came in and I had to take care of that or we would have had a country that was 1929. If I didn't pour money at send these horrible drugs into our country, and you'll see it stop very quickly. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
President Trump, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We love you in Navajo County, by the way. I'm a mom of 3, and when I go to the grocery store to fill up the fridge, costs are out of control. So, what do you think we can do? We need to bring those costs
Got to
down.
bring them down. We have the greatest inflation, in my opinion, in the history of our country. They say in 47 years, somebody else said 78 years. I say it's in the history. You look at the cost of food, and you look at the cost of energy, and you see where it is. And I think we're almost 50%. You know, they like to say 24%, 28%. It's much higher. And they don't include a lot of the things that are really bad. I'll give you an example, interest rates. So interest rates went from 2.5% with me up to close to 10%, and you can't get money anyway. But we have a very sick country. It started with energy. Now it's all over. And now energy isn't as bad as food. It's not as bad as rent. It's not as bad as a lot of things. But energy is going to bring it all down. If we cut your energy in half, you're going to see a difference the likes of which you've never seen before. We're going to get rid of inflation, and we're going to bring that number down. Not just where you don't have inflation. We're going to bring those costs down. It's the biggest thing I hear is people going out to the grocery store. They make the same amount of money, but they can buy half of the product. They buy half. And it's the single, I'll tell you what, it's the single biggest. I even have it here. I have something here. Because you asked this question, I think I'll show it. Should I show it? I don't know. Look. Tic Tacs. This is what inflation does. But that's, I kid. But there really is no kidding. Hello. People can't live. People that had a comfortable life under Trump, making the same kind of money. We had many more jobs, and they had all bounce back jobs. They bounced back from COVID. They were going to come back. But people that made the same amount of money, they live half as well because costs are so high. Inflation is known as a country buster. It busts up countries. It busted up Germany years and years ago. Anytime you have inflation that's not checked, not controlled, it's a country buster, and it's going to bust up our country because we've never had inflation so bad. So we're going to get the energy down. We're going to get the food prices down. We're going to do a lot of cutting also, and we're going to make our country very livable. We had almost no inflation, and now we have record-setting inflation, and it's killing people. Thank you, Dominic, very much.
Thank you. Talking about energy is a perfect segue to my question. Here's my question: is this? I've watched gas prices under the Joe Biden administration just soar, and we're no longer energy dominant, as you mentioned.
Can you believe it, right? And by the way, to interrupt, we have more, I call it liquid gold, under our feet than any other nation in the world. Saudi Arabia, Russia, but we don't use it. We don't use it. We don't use it because of these people that are absolutely, they're crazy. They're crazy. We don't use it. Drill, baby, drill. The man just said it. Drill, baby, drill. Go ahead.
Exactly, Mr. President. I'm a pastor, and I'm watching the members of my church hurt over how much, just like what you're saying, the gas cost is just to get to work, go to school, go to church. And therefore, my question is this: what are you going to do to help the everyday American who can barely afford the price of gas? And before you answer that, Mr. President, I just want to say this, Mr. Pastor. Scripture says, where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. And we want to thank you for tapping into the greater grace.
You can be my pastor any day. We can get energy started. You know, you have places in this country that you're very high, your energy is very high, but you have the New England states that are the highest in our country. It's crazy. And if they had a pipeline going from Pennsylvania through New York with New York Water Program, if they had a pipeline, they would cut their numbers down by 50%. I predict, and I will tell you, I'm going to get it goes down to much less than 50% of what they are now. All It's not as complicated as people think, and I did it. We had no inflation. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country, and we'll do it again, but we'll do it even better. Thank you, Pastors, very much.
President Trump, it's an honor.
Thank you.
I enlisted in the Army Reserve because I love my country, like many of us do.
Right.
Under Biden, our national security is at risk with endless wars. What is your plan to bring us back to peace?
So, that's such a good question. So, you know, when I ran against Hillary Clinton, I don't use the word crooked anymore. I don't use the word anymore. I don't, because I removed that word. I used it for Joe. I thought it was more accurate. And I had Sleepy Joe, and I removed it into Crooked Joe. I thought it was slightly more accurate. But we had a situation going with all of these people, everything. They wanted to say that I was going to create World War III. I was, look at him, he's a radical, look at him. I was a radical for not having wars. And if you look at Viktor Orban from Hungary, strong country, strong man, he's a very powerful man, very runs it strong. He didn't take illegal aliens. He didn't want them. He said, I want my people to be Hungarian. I don't want to have my shopping centers blown up, etc., etc. And they asked him a few weeks ago, they said, let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, what's going on with the world? The world is blowing up. You have Ukraine, Russia, you have Israel, you have all these these places are at war with each other. What's going on? He said, there's one thing going on. He said, Donald Trump isn't president. If Trump is president, it's all going to end. They all respect each other. So they said that, oh, look at, Hillary said this, look at Trump, just look at this guy, he's going to go to war, he's going to take us. No. Look at me, I'm the one that kept us out of war. For 78 years, it was 78 years until another president, look, that's a long time. I kept you out of wars. I totally defeated ISIS. I rebuilt our military, and countries respected us. I totally rebuilt our military, and I rebuilt our Veterans Administration. I took good care of our vets. 92% of people. So we are going to make sure there's no wars. We don't want to have wars. I call them endless wars. I call them wars where people don't even want us involved. Now, Ukraine's a very interesting case because we spend hundreds of billions of dollars. And Europe, don't forget, we have a little thing called an ocean in between us. Europe should be paying much more. Nobody asks them to pay more. I asked them to pay more for NATO, and they paid a lot more. That's where they got all the money, because they were all mostly delinquent, other than 8 nations. But they would always say Trump is going to get us into war with his attitude. No, my attitude kept us out of war. We defeated ISIS, totally defeated ISIS. We got out of Syria, we got out of Iraq. I got out of these wars because I'm a big believer. I want to spend our money in our country, doing our country's great things. Our country, you drive down our roads, you drive down our highways, our country's falling to pieces, our infrastructure is falling. And then these guys, all they want to do is spend money on the Green New Scam. It's a Green New Scam. I mean, the things they're spending money on, it's like throwing the money out the window. And we don't want to do that. We want to fix our roads and highways. We want to get rid of the electric mandate for the car. How about that? Yeah. And by the way, I'm a big fan of electric cars. I'm a fan of Elon. I like Elon. I like him. And I think a lot of people don't want to buy electric cars. But if you want to buy a different type of car, you have to have a choice. Some people need to go far. Some people don't want their car built in China. Some people, there are advantages to other. And basically what people have to have a choice. And you know what? You have to have choice also in education. You can have choice in education, and you can have choice in what you buy. And that has to do with electric. The electric cars don't go far. And by the way, they're incredible. He does an incredible job with Tesla. And I tell him, I said, and I think he agrees with me, frankly, but you can't. They don't go far. Same thing with the trucking industry. I met with the trucking industry the other night. They said they want us to switch to electric trucks. They have to stop 6 times going to California with a load of diesel. They don't have to stop at all. How the hell can you do that? You're going to destroy our supply chain. You're going to destroy everything. You put everybody out of business. So we are going to do things based on common sense. We're not going to allow men to play in women's sports. We're not going to allow people to pour into our country. We're going to get your taxes way down. We're going to save your Social Security. We're going to save Social Security. Biden is putting your Social Security at risk by allowing all of these people to pour into our country. It's at big risk, and we're not going to stand for that. He is putting Social Security at risk. With me, your Social Security is 100% safe.
Please, Mr. President, thank you for taking that question.
Thank you.
I'm a retired vet who had to close down my business because of the disastrous Biden economy. It's been tough. What's your plan to make sure other small businesses don't go through the same problem?
Well, they have to, and it's incredible. We had it going. And I poured money in to our country, and I'm sure you were a beneficiary at the time. But I poured money in to keep those businesses going and to keep people employed because of COVID. And COVID was a disaster. And we were able to get through that, and we got through without going into a depression. But with Biden, he's spending money on the wrong things. He's not spending money on you. He's spending money on things that don't work. He's got the most expensive forms of energy ever, where everything's subsidized. He's got windmills all over the place. Every time you see a windmill going up, you need tremendous subsidy. Now, it kills your birds, it ruins your landscape, ruins the value. If you have a house and you can see a windmill, your house is worth half. But it's also the most expensive energy there is. And we have to get back to the basics, and we have to be able to help people like you, not to help his friends who make all this crap. And much of it's made, and you know, a lot of it's made, most of it's made in China. It's made in China. There's something going on why somebody would want to do these things where the product is made in China. That goes for electric cars too, by the way. But the windmills are all made in China and some in Germany, but most of them are made in China. What the hell are we doing, right? We'll take care of you. You watch. Thank you. I understand exactly what you're saying. Just hang in. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, thank you very much. My name is Jorge Rivas. It's truly an honor to be talking to you again. And real quick, my wife, Betty, would like to say hi to you real quick.
Whoa! Look at her. Thank you, Betty. Thank you very much.
Latinos really do love you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And besides loving you, we're also praying for you, Mr. President. You'll be all right. My wife and I own a small restaurant in Tucson, Arizona, Sammy's Mexican Grill. And since the pathetic Joe Biden administration took over, the prices of everything that we use doubled.
Yeah.
Just a couple months after they took over. So would you be helping us out? And is there going to be some baby drill?
You know what's so interesting about when we're going through questions and I have time, what the hell else do we have to do today? Let's stay, right? But I have time. But you notice that the questions are basically about the border? Think of it. All these, almost everyone about the border, they want border security and they also want help on inflation because you're getting killed with inflation. The price of bacon has gone up 5 times. You can't order bacon. I don't order it anymore. It's too expensive. But bacon, as an example, has really eggs, all of this stuff. It's gone up at levels that nobody has ever seen before. But I believe the energy is going to bring it down. I think we can bring it down. And then once it starts that spiral, it's going to be a beautiful thing. Because, you know, when they say we're at 4% now, they're not including the fact that you might be 45, 50% higher than you were 4 years ago. So it's not 4%. We have to get it down. We have to bring it down. The best way that we can bring it down is with interest rates and energy, and the interest rates are going to follow the energy down, and that's going to follow the bacon and the eggs down. Okay? Thank you. We have a beautiful day. Thank you. Thank you. I like that hat. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. It's an honor to stand before you.
Thank you. It's my honor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Jose, and I own a small business that provides services for special needs children and adults.
Right.
Thank you so much. And I have a question for you this afternoon. Time and time again, we come across paying American citizen families that are denied services that their child requires, while on the other hand, we see others rushing across the border freely and easily receiving assistance. What will you do, Mr. President, about the influx in immigration, strained resources because of this widespread and open border strategy?
So we have to get them out. Look, it's not sustainable for us to have 20 million people that we have to take care of. And it's just not sustainable. And their countries, I know the leaders, I know them just about all. Their countries are doing this because they're smart. I would be the leader of the pack. If I ran Honduras, if I ran El Salvador, if I ran some of these countries that are sending vast numbers of people, I would be emptying out our prisons. I'd say, listen, send them to those stupid people in the United States who are led by idiots. Send them into the United States. Let's have empty prisons and let's never let them come back. concern the economy, inflation, and the border, and we're going to take care of it.
With President Trump. Give it up for him one more time. We need to make it too big to rig. Please go visit the tables out in the hall. Apply to become a ballot chaser. Apply to volunteer. Let's win this November. Thank you so much.
But if you just see them graphically, there's a 911 is embedded three-dimensional. It was going to weigh 4,000 pounds, and they had to reinforce this. And I can't even tell you how intense it was.
Campus. In a new direction. This aerial mobile is the centerpiece of the lobby at Hasbro Children's Hospital.
The idea was to kind of create this arrangement of floating discs of glass and color that would turn and project those colors. A little less jazzy, and the idea being recognized it's a high-stress environment. If there's a metaphor there, it would be what would healing.
These days, he's been trying his hand. How a piece revolves, has motion and balance. A work in progress?
Yeah, I don't think it's working.
Outside his studio are sculptures privately commissioned or just free-form pieces, each with a story that he hopes will bring a community together.
What I do love about public art as a category is it demands the whole spectrum. So you have to be able to write about it, you have to be able to speak about it, you have to be able to represent it and model, you have to transition it, you have to translate it, engineer it, actually build it, deliver it as a complete piece that's going to last for a couple hundred years.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Pamela Watts in Jamestown, Rhode Island.
And we'll be back shortly for a brief but spectacular take on how to create cultures of growth.
But first, take a moment to hear from your local PBS station. It's a chance to offer your support, which helps.
This sculpture dominates the stage of and significant. Ericla Fazzini, known for expressive style, his vision, he claimed,